Good afternoon, welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for the latest edition of the EFL London show. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon, Chris Thorpe and Billy Mulley. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Looking forward to getting in some London action. Plenty to get through, so yeah, should be good.
Yeah, certainly plenty to talk about this afternoon. Billy, how are you?
All good, cheers, mate. Yeah, as Chris says, there's a lot to get through, a few midweek fixtures and a full fixture list on Saturday as well.
Yeah, plenty of results to talk about from the midweek games and plenty to talk about coming up this weekend as well. People, wherever you watch from, do get in touch with across Facebook, YouTube, and we're back on Twitter, which is great to see as well. But let's get straight into the action and talk QPR first. Just the one sort of key headline in this headline section of the London show this afternoon is the fact that QPR could be missing some key players with the Africa Cup of Nations just around the corner now, coming up early next year. Elias Chair, Seni Dying and Osman Kakai could all be missing from QPR's squad over the course of the tournament. Chris, let's come to you first on this one. You look at the players named, I mean, particularly Dying and Chair have been really crucial for QPR this season. Obviously, Osman Kakai plays a good sort of role in the squad as well. How much of a miss do you think they're going to be for QPR?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a big miss, obviously, but I think at the same time, it doesn't matter how big you are as a club or how small you are as a club, you still have to anticipate this kind of thing and obviously make use of your entire squad. So, you know, it's obviously a bit of a blow to lose them at this stage of the season, but at the same time, they'll have other players that will be looking to push on and, you know, take those starting spots and sort of show Mark Warburton why they deserve to be starting every week. So in some ways it's a positive and in some ways it's negative. So as long as the ones that are coming in for those three perform to the levels that are expected of them, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But we'll see what happens, obviously.
Billy, I mean, I guess the one positive you could say is it's the timing of the tournament comes just as the January transfer window opens up. Obviously, QPR have got a decent squad already, and they've been going along nicely so far in the Championship. But do you think they'll be tempted to perhaps dip into the market and just sort of bolster out the squad with a couple of options?
I think they will be looking to do that, regardless of the players being called up to national service. I think what you can say about Dieng and Chair is that Jordan Archer is a good replacement to come in at Championship level. And then in Chair's place, you've got Willock, you've got George Thomas, who's been seemingly knocking on the door with good performances with the under-23s and positive displays when coming on at first team level. So in that respect, of course, they'll be missed, but I think they've got suitable and good enough replacements to keep up this sort of top six push. And if you think about players like Amos and Field have been missing for large parts of this season and have dealt with that quite well. Johansson has also missed a little bit of the season. Dykes up top as well. It has missed a little bit of the season. So they've dealt with these sort of player absences quite well. And I don't think they'll be looking to go overboard in the January transfer window, but instead I think they'll be looking to polish up a couple of positions.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Mark Warburton said he's had sleepless nights already about the situation, so hopefully he can try and get his head around that a little bit before it does come at the start of next year. That's just the one headline then we're going to speak about today on the EFL London show. Up next, we're going to get into the midweek results and start up with Charlton Athletic. A 2-0 win for Charlton earlier in the week up against Ipswich Town. Goals from Jayden Stockley and Alex Gilbey sealed the victory. I was there for Football League World, and I must say I was very impressed with the Addicts. At the same time, I was pretty disappointed with the way Ipswich put out their performance. I think it's fair to say Ipswich fans were as well, but we won't go into depth in them. We're talking Charlton, obviously being the London show, and it was a game where they had plenty of chances and really could have won by 5 or 6 goals. In fairness, had Christian Walton not been in the net for Ipswich, I think the Addicts would have well and truly run away with it. Chris, it's another good performance for Charlton under Johnny Jackson. Did you get to see much of the highlights, and what did you sort of make of the way they kind of took a team that many have fancied for promotion this year? Yes, they've lost their manager recently, kind of took them apart, really.
Yeah, no, I saw some of the highlights. Obviously, didn't get to see as much of the game as you did, George, because I was at Accrington myself. I had other commitments, as you may well be aware. But no, I think it's another example of how good a job Jackson's done since he's taken over the role. And you've got to sort of ask the question, how much more does he have to do to get the job? I know Sangard wants to take his time over who wants to take the club forward, but surely he's now got to sort of seriously consider whether he's making the right decision to long out the process. Surely he should just give him the job. But I think the main sort of improvement I've seen with Charlton is the midfield. George Dobson, Gilby, and Elliot Lee in that midfield three. They function so well unit, and it's tremendous to see how well Charlton fans have taken to Dobson. Obviously, we had him at Wimbledon last season, and I always really rated him. So it's sort of slightly no surprise to me to see him doing that well. And then obviously they've also got Jayden Stockley, who just can't score really. So yeah, it's all going really well for them. And I think it did help in the sense that Ipswich are in a sort of a state of turmoil as they have been for most of the season upon their recent strong run of form. But yeah, no, it was a really good result for Charlton, and obviously putting out a big statement to everyone else by beating, a team that were one of the favourites for promotion before the season started.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Chris. From back to front, Charlton looking very strong under Johnny Jackson. Obviously, still a fair amount of points away from the playoffs, but certainly looking more up than down now in the League One table. Before we move away from the Addicts, let's come to you, Billy, on this point. Jackson said that it's kind of expected in some ways that he's not really able to sort out contract negotiations with players that come in towards the end of their deals at the club because he himself doesn't know if he's going to be the manager. So, in that sense, it's another reminder if Thomas Sangard needs one. He obviously doesn't, but he does need to get a move on with his decision one way or another, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And those contract negotiations become really, really important past January because teams are sort of lower end of the Championship, higher end of League One will start sniffing around these players that can operate at Championship level, no doubt. So, yeah, I think in terms of prioritising Jackson's appointment, I think that's got to be on the agenda now because he's proven himself. I think the important thing is that he's bounced back brilliantly after a defeat against Shrewsbury. I think that shows a lot about his character and what he can do with his Charlton team, that it's not just this new manager buzz that's carrying him through these results. It's actually reacting well after a disappointing result. And as you were saying, it was a really, really good performance and result against an Ipswich side who many have fancied. I think looking at the highlight show, I don't know how they managed to squeeze in so many Charlton shots and efforts because it was up to about 7 or 8, I think I counted in the end. It just seemed like one-way traffic throughout. But...
Yeah, no, it certainly was. Charlton, very impressive on Tuesday night. Wayne has got in touch as well on YouTube. Well done, Charlton. From a Fulham fan, nice to see a bit of cross-capital love there. Okay, let's move away from Charlton, but let's keep in League One. And we're going to talk to a very happy Wimbledon fan, I think, next with Chris. And we're going to talk Wimbledon. A victory for your boys, Chris, up at Accrington, as you've mentioned earlier on. You were there. How did you rate the performance and what was it like up there on a no doubt cold Tuesday evening?
Yeah, well, it was a very long day. I think I got in at 4 a.m. in the end, but it was well worth it. Set off at 1 o'clock, got the coach up. There's 189 of us in total, and there wasn't a single person that left that stadium not feeling absolutely happy with what they saw from their team. Best performance of the season, to be honest. Defensively, kept a clean sheet, only our second clean sheet in the league, remarkably. It's obviously an area that we need to improve on moving forwards. So that's a really good starting point against an Accrington side who have obviously caused a few problems for teams perhaps bigger than ourselves, the likes of Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday. I think it was a pretty tough game for them when they played them as well. So, no pushovers by any stretch of the imagination, but we managed it really well. We didn't have the majority of the possession, which is something that we usually do and sort of function our game around. But when we had the chances, we took them. And, 2 goals from midfield, again, if you like, from Luke McCormick and Uber continues to go from strength to strength. Obviously, his reputation's growing and growing. I don't know how long it will be until we get, interest from higher up in him. 19 and he's performing in this way and setting a good example to players that are older and way more experienced than him as well in the team. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant. The fans didn't stop singing for the whole game, the whole 90 minutes, and even in the rain just coming down all night, it was fantastic. And you could see how much the players and management appreciated it at the end. And there was definitely a lot of hugs between players and fans at the end, I can tell you. So, yeah, absolutely unreal away day all round, really.
Yeah, it certainly sounds it. A win always makes all the tough travelling and weather worth it, particularly in December. You look at the table, Chris. You've got a couple of games in hand on, most of the teams, nearly all the teams above you. At least one game in hand, but two for most of the teams above you. There's still, a good opportunity for you to, providing you obviously win those two games in hand, make a little bit of a dent and get yourselves up the table.
Yeah, definitely. We obviously had that little run where we weren't picking up the results that we perhaps deserved, or perhaps weren't performing well enough to get. So I just think you need to show patience with a team that's young as our one is, and the most important thing is that the fans are buying into the vision that we have for the future and how we see things progressing for us. Because, sorry, excuse me, I just need some water. Because we used to be considered a team that would be in and around the relegation zone, but we're trying to change that outlook on us by basing it around young players, getting them in, developing them, selling them on for profit, and just becoming more sustainable as a club and looking to, hopefully push on to the Championship within the next 5 years. So it's all really positive, and as long as we stay positive as a collective, then we can go as far as we want to.
Okay, yeah, no, looking good for Wimbledon on the back of that win. We're looking to climb up the table with those games in hand as well in the coming weeks. Let's move away from League One then. Let's drop into League Two and talk another win for another London club. Up next, we're going to talk Leyton Orient, as the little graphic suggested. Billy, will come to you on this one. Orient looking very strong at the moment. A fine win over another playoff contender in Swindon Town. 4-1 the victory. Impressive stuff from Orient. What did you make of what you got to see in terms of the highlights from them?
Yeah, a terrific display. It seems when Orient win, they win quite convincingly, and this was another example against a Swindon side that I think you can expect them to be in and around the promotion mix as the season progresses. It was their first defeat away from home this season as well. Been really, really difficult to beat, and that they've beaten them by 3 goals, which again just shows the kind of attacking firepower, the cutting edge they possess within that squad. I've been talking them up all year, and it seems that every time I talk them up, they go and draw 1-1. But finally, this time I spoke quite a lot about how good they were in yesterday's show, and they've gone and done the business. And I think Drinnan and Smith playing together up front now, a slight tactical shift from Jacket. I think at the start of the campaign, Drinnan was playing out wide with Archibald on the other side and Smith playing more centrally, but now the pair are playing up top together. It seems that it's starting to reap its rewards, and Archibald chipping in with two assists from sort of a left wing back role, which is quite unfamiliar for him, but he's really impressing. And I think that's what you can say about the majority of attacking players in that Leyton Orient team. They're all impressing. The competition levels for places are going up, and that's exactly what Jack will be hoping for as the season progresses.
Yeah, certainly will be. I think you make a good point as well, Billy. When Orient do win, they tend to win fairly, emphatically. I mean, the last few wins, they've been scoring 4 goals. They just need to, turn some of those draws that they've been having this season into wins as well. They'll be looking to do that and use a really good win over a decent Swindon team, it must be said, as a springboard in the coming weeks over the festive period. One final team to talk about on the midweek review section of the EFL London show this afternoon, and that's Sutton United. And what a dramatic game it was in South Wales as they went to Newport County. They went 2-0 up, Sutton away from home, but ended up losing 3-2. A late Matty Dolan penalty given Newport all 3 points. Sutton did go down to 10 men early on in the game. In the 34th minute, Craig Eastman was shown the red card. Chris, we'll come to you on Sutton here. I guess, they can obviously take positives. They're still well in the playoff picture. They were looking good to beat another team that you consider, a playoff rival. but it just seemed as though numerical advantage perhaps told in that second half.
Yeah, strange one really. Obviously, they went in 2-0 up at the break after having a red card. I just guess they didn't manage it well enough tactically. It's hard enough to do it with 11 men away from home and you're ahead to manage the game. Obviously, I think psychologically you feel in the back foot anyway. And then to have Eastman, who's obviously one of the more experienced members of the team, drop out because of that red card. It just seems like they didn't know how to manage that situation. I know there's a few young players in their team, but yeah, they'll be disappointed about that. But it's just a learning experience for them because, first season in the Football League, it's not always going to go well and be plain sailing. So yeah, they just need to reflect on it and sort of come back and, go back to the points that they were picking up when they were in good form. And I'm sure they can refine that moving forwards because they are a good team and they've shown that and they've perhaps proved some of their doubters wrong already.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the case. They'll be looking to bounce back as quickly as possible from that defeat. It certainly was a dramatic night at Rodney Parade. Let's move away then from the midweek results. Let's look ahead to the weekend's action involving clubs from London. First of all, we're going to talk Luton Town against Fulham. Fulham on the road, up to Kenilworth Road. Billy, you're a Luton fan, and I'm guessing you're going to be there this weekend as well. So it makes sense to come to you on this one. How concerned are you as a Luton fan? Yes, you've come off the back of a good win at Blackpool, and admittedly, Fulham are drawing more games than winning at the moment. But even so, how concerned are you about facing the Cottagers this weekend?
Yeah, probably as concerned as you can be, really. Fulham, I've spoken a lot thinking that there's Fulham and then there's the rest of the promotion chasing pack. I think they are a class above. Obviously, haven't been turning those draws into wins at the moment, but the chances they are creating, the sheer volume of them and sort of the strength in depth for when players aren't performing as you could quite expect, means that it's going to be a really, really difficult test. Luton will be very positive that we go into games fearless and there is sort of that shift in mentality this season. But yeah, I do think that beating Fulham is too steep of a task, and I do expect Fulham to run away with this one.
Okay, let's get your score prediction for this one, Billy, if I may.
I'm going to go 2-0 Fulham.
Okay, I'll ask you to bet against your team there, basically. Sorry about that. Chris, how do you see this one going? What's your score prediction?
Sort of the same that I do for every Fulham prediction, really. I think they'll score 3 or 4 and Mitrovic will probably get 2.
Okay,
sorry, Billy.
We'll see. Yeah, Billy doesn't look too happy about that one, but we'll see what happens at Kenilworth Road this weekend. Elsewhere in the Championship, Millwall also on their travels. They're heading to Peterborough United. We know Peterborough away from home aren't particularly good, but at home they're obviously doing a little bit better to try and keep themselves in touch in the Championship sort of relegation battle. What do you make of Millwall's chances this weekend, Chris?
To be honest, I don't think Peterborough's entire squad is really good enough for the Championship just yet. They probably need a few more transfer windows to get up to the standard required. That's no fault of their own. Obviously, they run on a basis where they sell players for profit. Perhaps they didn't get the sales in the summer that they wanted, but obviously they wanted to hold on to their best players. Otherwise, they'd just be in a continuous cycle of de-strengthening the team. But I think Millwall have got a good chance of going there and getting a result. I love quite a lot of what Millwall are doing this season and what they've done in previous seasons under Rowett. So defensively solid, and also they have the flair players who can make a difference, like Jeb Wallace. And I also quite like Scott Malone at left wing back. I think he's really underrated. So yeah, I reckon they probably get like a 2-1 win at London Road. It's not necessarily the easiest place to go, but I just think their quality will shine through in the end, really.
Okay, yeah, obviously looking to build on that 3-1 victory over Birmingham last weekend. Billy, what's your score prediction for the Lions here?
I'm going to go 2-1 Millwall. I think, as Chris was alluding to there, Peterborough have been quite strong at home. Very rarely are they outplayed on home soil. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 in favour of Millwall.
Okay, Lions fans will be happy with that one. One final Championship game involving a London club sees QPR head to Sheffield United. Billy, I think you may have said either last week or the week before that QPR never seem to play on a Saturday anymore, and well, it's ringing true again this time around. So we'll look ahead to Monday now. QPR off to Bramall Lane. Sheffield United are in good form as well under Paul Heckingbottom. This is going to be a tough test for the Hoops, isn't it?
Definitely, it's a difficult game to respond to after a defeat last weekend. I think with QPR, as I said before, I think they've got a strong enough squad. It's just, do they have the mindset to keep on competing at the top end of the division? Personally, I think they do. I think they've got a good manager in place, the squad, they've got everything to suggest that they will be knocking around the playoffs come the end of the season. But yeah, this is a very, very difficult test for them to come back from. With the Blades winning their last 3 games on the Heckingbottom and sort of quietly and slowly they are creeping their way back up the table. So it will be quite a closely contested game, but I think I'm going to go for bang in the middle and go for a 1-1.
Okay. Chris, what's your score prediction for this one?
I'd say 2-1 Sheffield United. I just think the momentum's really with them at the moment. And I think even with Jokanovic in charge, I still think it was a pretty tough ask to go to Bramall Lane and win. So yeah, I'd go with the Blades on this one.
Okay, the Blades being backed by Chris at least to maintain their good form. QPR will obviously have to try and prove him wrong. At least they may take a draw, as Billy is predicting. We'll see what happens. Let's move into League One. Chris, we'll come to you. First of all, let's talk Wimbledon. Your boys are playing Wycombe this week, and that's going to be a tough trip, isn't it, against a very good team at this level?
Yeah, definitely. They're competing up the top there, where a lot of people would have expected. Obviously, have a certain way of playing, but they play it to great effect. And no disrespect to them at all. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, it works. And they've proven it. They've obviously got to the Championship before, and they're looking to do that again. So it's not going to be an easy game for us by any stretch, and it'll be a big test for what is a very young squad that we have against one of the more experienced teams in the division. But we've stood up to tough tests so far this season already, so I feel like we could do it again. I'm not going to stick my neck on the line and say we're going to win. I'm going to say that we're going to get a 1-1 draw, but I still think we'll match them for most of the game.
Okay, I think considering Wycombe's obviously experience at this level, where they've just come from in being in the Championship and being a good side, I think you'd be quite happy with a point there. Billy, what's your score prediction here?
I'm going to go 2-1 Wycombe. I think they'll edge it. I think Wycombe at home averaging 2.4 points per game this season. Adams Park's become quite a fortress in League One. So yeah, I think that I have been impressed with Wimbledon, and I think they'll give it a great test, and their young squad will cause a lot of problems. But I think it's that notion of the experience that Wycombe possess. I think that might override it all, and I think Wycombe might just edge this one 2-1.
Okay, I'm sure nothing to do with Chris earlier on predicting that Fulham are going to hammer Luton this weekend as well, Billy. One final game in League One to talk about. Charlton against Cambridge. It's an opportunity for the Addicts to keep their good form going, particularly at home. But against the Cambridge side that won 5-0 in the week, so their tails will be up as well. Billy, how do you see this one going between Charlton and Cambridge? It's probably a game that the Addicts will fancy getting another 3 points from, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think looking on paper, looking at where Cambridge are and their goal difference and those kind of factors, I think Charlton will be looking at this as another victory in sight. But Cambridge, they just don't make any sense to me. That the results they've picked up this season, that they've been battered by some of the worst clubs in the division, but then held their own against some of the better teams, and then absolutely battering Cheltenham during the week was just mad to me. So I think that Charlton will win this. I think they will win maybe about 2-0, but any scoreline to me would it just wouldn't surprise me with Cambridge.
Okay. What's your score prediction here for this one, Chris?
Well, with it being at the Valley, I do think Charlton will have the advantage in that sense. I'm a big believer in home advantage. I know it's such a cliche, but I just think it does make a hell of a difference. And, Charlton are a much better side than Cheltenham as well. So I feel like Cambridge will struggle. But they'll still give them a good game. So I'm going to go 3-1 Charlton.
Okay, that's 2 Charlton wins being back this weekend. Let's move into League Two. Leyton Orient playing host to Crawley Town this weekend. Chris, are you back in Orient to keep their good, I say good winning run? It's not been a massive winning streak, but their home form has been good. Do you think they're going to do the same against Crawley this Saturday?
Yeah, I think so. Crawley, one of those teams that are very frustrating, as I'm sure you know very well, George being a Crawley native. I just don't think they can go to Brisbane Road and cause Leyton Orient enough problems and to get a result there, really. I think Kenny Jackett will literally be saying to his players, just pick up from where you left off against Swindon. So, yeah, I'll go for another home win. I'll give it a 3-1 as well.
Okay. I think you make good points there, Chris. Crawley, particularly erratic this season and particularly erratic at the moment. Billy, are you back in an Orient win as well?
Yeah, I'm convinced that Jackett's found this winning formula. That slight tactical shift that I was speaking about earlier, playing Smith and Drennan together up top. I think that's going to start causing chaos in this division. So, yeah, I think that Orient might win this one quite convincingly. I'll go for 3-0 Orient.
Okay, the O's back to get goals this weekend. And one final game to talk about is Sutton's trip to Bradford City. It's going to be another big test for them, isn't it, Billy? After their trip to Newport in the week. Yeah,
it's quite a lot of distance that they'll be racking up. So it's going to be whether they can adapt to that. I think with Sutton this year, they're quite surprising in terms of the results they get. Sometimes they struggle against the lesser sides, but sometimes they put in a really good showing against the better sides. Similar to Bradford, really, that they haven't found consistency this season. But yeah, I think it might be a bit too difficult of a test. I still expect Bradford to start finding that winning formula soon. So I'm going to go for a narrow 1-0 win Bradford's way.
Okay, yeah, no, Bradford do sort of flatter to deceive at times in League Two. Drawn a lot of games as well. 10 draws so far this year for the men from Valley Parade. Chris, how do you see Sutton faring here?
I think there's going to be goals. I think it might be a 2-2 draw, just because Sutton, probably one of their best results of the season that's perhaps gone under the radar in the Johnson Paint Trophy. They went to Portsmouth 1-2-0. If they can win at Fratton Park, which is obviously intimidating environment, I'm sure they can get a decent result at Valley Parade. So, yeah, I go for a 2-2 draw. I think there'll be plenty of goals in this one.
Okay, yeah, that will be another entertaining clash that Sutton will be involved in, particularly after their 3-2 loss at Newport earlier this week. That brings the EFL London show to a close for the week. Coming up on Football League World TV tomorrow, we've got the betting show at 10 a.m. Sam Rourke hosting that one. Billy's joining him, and so will Ned Holmes. And then EFL Weekend Preview at 4 o'clock. Billy's going to be hosting that one, so you're busy, Billy, tomorrow. And you're joined by Adam Jones and Marcus Ali. So do tune in across YouTube, Facebook and Twitter if you can tomorrow. Those are the shows that'll be on. But for myself, from Chris, Billy, that's it for the EFL London show for this week. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Football League World TV. And do like this video as well. That would be greatly appreciated. But from us here for now, it is bye for now.